Hello, I'm Jim Campanini, co-host of the Boston Bros Political Show. Welcome to the show. And here's my co-host, Boston Herald political columnist, Peter Lucas. How you doing, Peter?
Good to be here, Jim.
Yeah, a lot of things going on this last week.
Absolutely.
The show is coming to you from the InsideLowell.com headquarters. Teddy Panos, our producer, is in the corner. How you doing today, Teddy? How's everything?
Fantastic. Good morning, guys.
Beautiful. Peter, I'm wearing my Bruins hat. I think this might be the last time before the wake. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Well, you can always switch to the Red Sox.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Speaking about wakes.
No, I think they're going to have a better season. But, yeah, this will be the last time for the my Bruins hat this season, I think. But anyway, I like the Bruins hockey, like the Watchmen stuff. This was a tough year. So getting right to it, you wrote a column earlier this week, and I must commend you. It was a nice column on Kitty Dukakis, who passed away this past week, the former First Lady of Massachusetts, Governor Michael Dukakis' wife. And, you've had some great stories you told me in the past about her. I didn't meet her personally because I came to the Sun as editor in 1989. Governor Dukakis has already run for president in '88, but I saw her at a few functions from afar. She always conducted herself with dignity. I was always impressed with her. She was she looked like a wonderful woman, and I know she went through a lot of ups and downs, but always handled herself well. She was a role model for a lot of people. What were your experiences with her?
Well, I've known her for years, as long as I've known Mike Dukakis. And I always found it to be outgoing and refreshing in the way she handled issues. And my secret story about her, which I tell my friends, is that she helped me stop smoking. Mike Dukakis used to have an annual Christmas party for the press, the State House Press Corps. And it was a type of Christmas party that there wasn't too much drinking because he would have a breathalyzer with a state cop outside his office in case you wanted to check yourself. But at any rate, I think it was 1985 at the Christmas party. It was pretty crowded, and Kitty and I were there, and we were the only smokers in the room. So we were shunted off to the corner where the window was open so we could puff away and the smoke would go out the window. Mike Dukakis did not like cigarette smokers. And anyway, I said, Kitty, we got to quit smoking. She said, yeah, we do. And she said, there's a psychiatrist, a new shrink in Brookline. He hypnotizes people and she gets them to quit. Why don't I make an appointment? I said, gee, that's a good idea if it works. And she said, I'll do that right after the holidays. I said, great. So I went home that night and I was thinking, maybe this is not such a good idea. I want to quit smoking, but if I go with Kitty, we're going to be on the phone to each other back and forth. And I said, I'm going to quit on my own. I got my cigarettes, I threw them in the fireplace, burned them all up, and I quit.
You went cold turkey?
I went cold turkey.
Wow.
And then for about 8 or 9 days, and after New Year's, I'm back at the State House at my desk there, and Kitty calls. And she says, I hope you had a good holiday, but I've made an appointment for Thursday with the shrink in Brookline. I said, Kitty, I don't think so. She said, what do you mean? I said, I quit. You what? She said, I quit, cold turkey. And there was I said, I can't make the appointment. There was a long pause, and she said, I won't repeat what she said. But I quit smoking. I think she kept on smoking. She was a charming lady. I liked her a lot. I liked her a lot.
So when you saw her after that, and you told her that you had continued, quitting smoking and stuff, was she happy for you?
Oh yeah, she was. She'd call once in a while and say, she was still smoking, and are you still not smoking? I say, yeah, I'm still at it.
Yeah. So our sympathies to Governor Dukakis and his family, and she was certainly one of the bright spots in Massachusetts politics for many, many years. So moving on, another Massachusetts story, the JFK assassination files that were released last week with much anticipation. Trump promised that he was going to release them all, 80,000 files. I don't know. Did it do anything to clear anything up? I mean, this was worse than I think Geraldo Rivera opening that Capone's vault in Chicago. Was it Chicago or something? And nothing was in there. I mean,
And there was nothing new, no new revelations. And from what I've read of the documents so far, very disappointing because nothing has changed. Half the country believes that there was a lone assassin, and the other half believes it was a conspiracy, and there was more than one shooter. I've been down to Dallas. I've been down at that site several times, 3 times, and each time I've been down there, I've gone to the book depository where Oswald was supposedly up there with his Italian rifle shooting at the president. And I've measured the distance, and through my experience in the military and common sense told me that there's no way he could have made the shot with a bolt-action rifle that he had. And if you ever see the video or the film of Kennedy being shot, you'll see his head go back. And as far as I can understand or concern or believe, there was a second shooter.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah. And Peter, once again, wrote a column about this a couple of days ago in the Boston Herald, a good column, very thought-provoking and stuff. I've been to, many years ago, I went to Dallas and walked around and stuff. But what gets me is I read a couple of books. I like 2 authors, Jack Carter, and the other one was Mark Graney, and they write about snipers, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they usually do a really thrilling book about this. And he describes the training and the weapons they use. I mean, these are high caliber technology, weapons, and the training that goes into to these guys to become snipers. And reading Peter's column and also some things about Oswald. I mean, when he was in Russia, the KGB did a dossier on him, and they said he was a terrible shot. They put right in there. Now, whether that was cover as a dodge or something,
I don't know.
but the guy didn't really distinguish himself even when he was a U.S. Marine, So how did he make that shot? Was it a lucky shot? I mean, and how did he get off? Which I think you wrote in your column. How did he get off 3 shots with a bolt-action rifle in 8.6 seconds?
Right, pretty hard to do. Hard to do.
Yeah. So
And the distance on a moving target, to me, it was an impossible shot.
Yeah, but I agree with Peter. I think whatever secret was known was buried long ago, destroyed. Like Peter writes in his column, most of those people have died, and we'll never really know.
Shooting a weapon like that is not like you see in the movies or on television. It takes practice, and it takes talent. You have to know what you're doing. And for him to have a foreign, not even an American rifle, which he would have used as a Marine when he was in the service, makes it all the more difficult in my mind.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I read one time there have been, more books have been written about President Abraham Lincoln and his assassination, his presidency, than any other president. And then JFK novels were right up there second. Okay. So this will probably start another spike in JFK conspiracy novels and stuff like that. We'll probably be reading them for the next 20 to 40 years. But there are 80,000 files. Let's see, maybe something might turn up, but maybe it's a Da Vinci Code thing, where there's clues hidden in every one of those files, and someone will put it together someday. I don't know.
Well, it's, all the participants or observers of that tragic shooting are all dead now.
Yeah.
And there are no more living witnesses. Quint Hill, who was the Secret Service agent, who was the person who jumped on the car to protect Jackie Kennedy as the shooting took place, he just died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 93 years old.
93 years old.
Yeah. So, he was one of the last ones. Okay, so JFK, we don't know. We'll have to keep watching. But turning to other things, the weekend talk shows. Normally don't watch them. This weekend there were two people, interesting people, on WBZ TV on I think it was Saturday and Sunday. It was Sunday, right? Both shows. Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, the state, and then U.S. Representative Lori Trahan was in 𝐤𝐿 𝐁𝐫𝐿.
Andrea Campbell
Yes.
was on Channel 5.
Yes, she was on Channel 5. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And Laurie Trahan was on Channel 4.
Channel 4.
𝐤𝐿.
Yes. Let's attribute where it should be. So so first of all, let's go to the state attorney general. She's been very aggressive, joining in with other Democrat state attorney generals across the country, and she believes that the only way they can keep the Trump administration in check is by filing lawsuit after lawsuit. Similar to her predecessor, Maura Healey, who is now the governor. You know, Maura Healey takes credit for filing 100 lawsuits against Trump. I don't know whatever happened to those lawsuits.
Most of them went nowhere, but
Yeah.
they helped her get elected governor.
Yes,
She got a
okay.
lot of national publicity.
So the point with Campbell's point, she claimed that democracy was being jeopardized with the Trump administration, and she told one of her quotes was, "A president." She didn't call him Trump. She says, "President, stay in your lane." That was another one, and then she was very aggressive about the Homeland Security Director Tom Homan and ICE telling him to basically stay out of Massachusetts, but if you're going to, bring it on, and we'll do what we have to do to protect. Who she's going to protect, I don't know.
The day after she said, "Bring it on," Tom Homan brought it on.
Yes.
And had this massive raid in Boston and Massachusetts and arrested 370 illegal immigrants, many of which were wanted for serious crimes.
Well, that's the
Talk about bringing it on.
Well, yeah, and that's the point. And then listening to Attorney General Campbell, and then reading, I think I read the story about it in I don't know if it was the Boston Globe or Mass List, about her department, her office has 625 employees and 325 state attorneys general. And she wanted more funding from the legislature.
Right.
She wanted to add even more attorneys to
Right.
go after Trump. And I'm saying, I don't know of too many prosecutions that she's brought against criminals in this state. And yet she's just focused on Trump. And yet, in the story about the sweep by Homeland Security, ICE, the FBI, DEA, they were all involved in this 5-day sweep in Massachusetts, which took place last week. They corralled 370 illegal aliens.
But they did it under the nose of the Attorney General,
Exactly.
under the nose of the governor, under the nose of the mayor of Boston.
Yeah, and all you read in the stories from the Boston Globe is, how there's fear in all these communities where they have high immigrant populations, because they're just grabbing people out of cars. And I'm saying, wait a minute, I read the story. 205 of these people were criminal illegal aliens.
Yes.
4 of them were either convicted of murder, wanted for murder,
Right.
or facing prosecution for murder. 4 of them. There were 3 or 4 child rapists who had been brought before judges in Massachusetts. They were bailed out on $7,500. Even some of the law enforcement people who refused to be quoted in some of the articles said, that's really low for someone. At least you put them on a monitor or a bracelet. It didn't mention whether they were on them when they arrested these people. Okay, and the other thing, the Globe doesn't use arrest, saying they're detained. They're detained now. Okay, and I'm saying to myself, what is happening? What? And Homan's quote was, these officers working from all these agencies put their lives at risk because they had to go on the street and go into homes which they don't know anything about it. Sometimes they had to go into a workplace, stop vans and these people. They found a couple with guns. 55, I think it was 55 kilograms. Is that right? Kilograms or grams of fentanyl, cash. I mean, these were dangerous people.
But they've done
Not
it
all of
without,
them.
and they've done it without local cooperation.
That's the point. He said, this would have been made a lot easier if we had local cooperation. And then Governor Healy shoots back. She says, Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, and we cooperate. She said just a couple of weeks ago, our state police went to the White House where Trump praised them for a fentanyl bust in Lawrence.
Massachusetts may not be, quote, a sanctuary state, but it's pretty close to being a haven.
Yes.
Because anyone who comes here automatically is eligible for social welfare benefits.
So going back to the point, I'm not saying that, once again, the liberal media, right, every time there's a raid like this, they do a counter story. Oh, a poor person was swept up, had a valid work permit. But it doesn't say in the story who they checked with to see the valid work permit. This one person they were writing about, his work permit expired. He was in the country illegally. He got a work permit. Then it expired. He got another one. Well, there were scams with work permits, a scandal a while back. Maybe he got one like that. But one person, and yet my point is, maybe if the state cooperated with ICE, you wouldn't have, if there are mistakes, you wouldn't have them, because right now they're checking everything. They're checking whether it is a truly valid work permit. This person happens to be detained right now.
Look, Jim, the state is run by progressives. Mm-hmm. And despite the advances that the country has made under Donald Trump in dealing with illegal immigration, the progressives are locked in their position of supporting immigration, particularly illegal immigration. And by the way, meanwhile, we have these Tesla dealerships being torched all over the country. In Massachusetts, in Littleton, 10 charging stations, Tesla charging stations, were torched. A Tesla driver was shot at in Lowell. The state has paid no attention.
No attention whatsoever.
Okay? They're barely mentioned. And I go back to when Maura Healey was Attorney General. Recall the riots, burning down the city after George Floyd was murdered, even in downtown Boston. And nobody was arrested. Hardly anybody was punished. Democrats ignored it or even praised it. I recall Governor Maura Healey's quote at that time, giving a speech to the Chamber of Commerce about these riots and these burning down cities. Her quote was, "Yes, America is burning. That's how forests grow." Okay. I would update that quote, and I would say, yes, Teslas are burning. That's how dealerships grow.
Very good.
It's absurd.
But before, I
may quote myself in my next call.
I want to get into that Tesla thing, but first, I just want to back up a little.
All right.
Because
I read the boss.
Rick Sobey, who's a fine writer.
He's a good reporter.
From the Reporter at the Boston Herald. I hired him when I was editor at the Lowell Sun.
Wow.
Okay. He was very, very good. And then he went to go on work for the Boston Herald. And I like to think about Jimmy Breslin when I talk about Rick Sobey and some other reporters who work for me. They don't strive so much for objectivity. The number one primary issue is the truth. Facts. They write facts. Okay, so his story about this sweep, okay, the headline in the story. Now, reporters don't write the headline, but they said ICE Boston arrests 370 alien offenders in Massachusetts, including MS-13 Tren de Aragua Trinitarios gang members, and then a Holman quote is in a subtitle. It says, "We targeted the most dangerous alien offenders." Well, if I lived in an immigrant community, okay, I think I'd be happy that they're getting rid of some of the scum that is selling fentanyl to the kids, you know, or trying to recruit them as gang members and stuff. And, you know, this is why nobody trusts our government institutions anymore, law enforcement, the hardworking people that, you know, there still are a lot of good people working in law enforcement on every level and stuff. And you have to believe they want to do their job. But when you put up roadblocks to their job or incriminate them like they're doing something illegal against illegal aliens,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it just diminishes the value of everything that we've ever stood for in America. But the big thing out of this is the day of this raid, the great ACLU, and I say that with sarcasm, puts out a fundraising request based on this about deportations. The American Civil Liberties Union, in its email, urged supporters to tell their state lawmakers to pass the, quote, Dignity Not Deportations Act. Now, there's something you should. Did you know about this piece of
I
legislation?
didn't know about that piece of legislation, but there's also legislation on the Hill, pending legislation, that would provide the state to come up with funds to pay for lawyers to these people who are illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants being deported.
I mean, I guess the images that ABC, CBS, MSNBC been showing on TV, you know, the deportees being dragged into one of El Salvador's worst prisons with their white uniforms, their heads down. We're supposed to give sympathy to these people.
I think most people are cheering.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. And the ACLU ends with a quote: Massachusetts should take a stand against this lawlessness. This is what they're saying, okay? And we certainly should not be doing ICE's work for them. They're not doing any work. ICE is doing all the work. What is they talking about?
I don't know what
You know,
they're talking
ICE wants help. Okay, with identifying these people who some of them already go before a judge because they've committed a crime, but you can't even detain these people. They won't hold them for detainees.
You know,
But here's the final quote. Tell mass lawmakers, protect our communities from Trump's deportation agenda. Pass the Dignity Not Deportations Act to end ICE contracts in the Commonwealth. I mean, I can't.
you know, the bottom line is we're a country of immigrants, but the vast majority of the immigrants came to the country legally through a process. These immigrants now being deported all cut in line. They crossed the border illegally. Biden just waved them all in. And they are not the immigrants that built this country up, the hardworking immigrants who came through the process legally. And it's a shame that everybody is put in the same category because most Americans are in favor of immigration, but they're not in favor of illegal immigration.
No.
And that's what we have thanks to Joe Biden.
Well, and they're not in favor of these people being left. I mean, when they were swarming the border, you couldn't vet them all. And a lot of them was catch and release. They were supposed to show up for a court date and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a system that the Biden administration put in place under, Homeland Security Chief Mayorkas. One of the worst federal bureaucrats ever to serve in that capacity.
If he's still around, Trump is liable to send him down to El Salvador too.
Well, it's crazy because now this is the state that we're in, and Trump promised to to round up the illegal criminals among the illegal aliens and get rid of them, and that's what he's doing. So it just boggles my mind that some organizations, people, even state attorneys generals, are just putting up this resistance for. They're not really making their community safer. They're not. They're just dividing it even more. That's the way I see it. So, the other second appearance.
I was just going to add, when you get the attorney generals, the Democrat attorney generals, including our own attorney general, Andrea Campbell, all joining together, all Democrats, slowing down through their suits on what the president wants to do on a various number of subjects, including immigration. It's like a vast conspiracy with the Democrat liberal judges, these federal circuit court judges, who are all ruling against Trump. You had Democrat judges, Democrat attorney generals, all ganging up on Trump, who was elected president of the country on a program that people voted for. It just seems to be such obstructionist that it's beyond imagination.
Well, it didn't work. Democrats have lost 2 out of the last 3 presidential elections to the same man who they considered back in 2016 unelectable. Okay, something's going on. They looked at that election as an anomaly. Okay, and then it happened again, they just can't understand the same issues, and it rose to the surface. People had enough of it. Okay, illegal immigration, their economic needs weren't being met through the Biden administration, the Democrats, which brings me to the second appearance. And this was on Keller at Large, Congresswoman Lori Trahan of Lowell. She made an appearance on the Sunday show, and she's on that. She's on a top committee in Congress, right? With
she's part of the leadership
team. Yeah.
She's involved in communications and messaging of the Democratic program, whatever it is.
So she's given a couple of town halls, and that naturally the progressives show up at these town halls in her district and stuff, And these are the same people who want to hear the same things, but no one ever raises any questions that are about what's really going on. It's all about ideology and stuff. So she said that John Keller, one of the interesting questions he did ask, because he didn't ask her much, talked to her about the election and the Democrats losing the House, the Senate. And she says, quote, "Clearly we fell out of touch with the everyday concerns of Americans, and we need to fix that. The other thing is we need to communicate effectively where people are. We need to distribute our message differently than we have in the past," Trahan said of Democratic messaging. So she thinks it's the messaging. She doesn't think it's just the issues. Like, if I was John Keller, I would have said, why should men be allowed to play in women's sports? Why do you think it's right when you're the mother of 2 daughters? And you brought this point up before. She was a scholarship volleyball player at Georgetown University. She would have never won that scholarship if she was competing against men.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So Lori thinks it's the messaging that the Democrats have.
It's not the messaging. It's the positions that they've taken, and they're stuck with, and they can't seem to break loose. People do not want men in women's locker rooms. It's a disgrace and a disaster. It's common sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that if she is thinking about the non-traditional ways that President Trump reached his audience, he went into the lion's den. He went onto people he knew who were antagonistic. But he also went on podcasts. He went on comedy shows. He showed up at every event that he could. Okay. Now, maybe Lori Trahan will want to come on this podcast.
That would be a good idea.
Democrat messaging, and we could ask her some questions that really people want to know about, instead of asking about how they put up the resistance to Trump at these town hall meetings.
Well, let's invite her.
Yeah, we should invite her and have her in here where we can really talk to her about Elon Musk. And she had a quote in here. I don't think. She says that she believes that people who voted for Trump, because there are some Republican communities in her district that favored Trump, Billerica being one of them, and some others. And she said that. She thinks that some of these people might be having regrets that they voted for Trump. Do you believe that?
No, I think they'd vote for him again.
No. I mean, I think the 77 million people who voted for Trump are locked in. If anything, he's going to be gaining ground. Now, a lot can change in politics, but right now the polls show that he's pretty locked in what he's doing. So, but let's go to the Tesla thing, okay, with these left-wing lug nuts who terrorizing Tesla dealerships. They're actually keying the cars of Tesla owners. They could be Democrats, Republicans, anarchists, independents. They don't even know, but they're keying everybody's car. I mean, wasn't it a fad for all the liberals to buy Teslas at one time? So
all the environmentals.
All the environmental support.
They used to praise Elon Musk for the Teslas, for doing wonders with the environment. And now they're burning his cars because he's doing another favor for the American people, and that is cutting fat, waste, and abuse from the budget. Who can be against that?
Well, it just, once again, I've said it before, it boggles your mind. But these, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that she's going to use the full force of the law to prosecute these people because she believes, as does President Trump, they're domestic terrorists that are behind this.
I would not want Pam Bondi on my case.
Okay. And so 3 people, the FBI has arrested 3 people already. One of them in Salem, Oregon, was carrying an AK-47. He threw 8 Molotov cocktails at a Tesla dealership, blew up almost a dozen brand new cars and Cybertrucks.
No one in the Democratic leadership has commented or condemned this practice.
And that's the other thing. Not even Lori Trahan has done that.
No.
Okay. This violence. Okay. What is it going to take? Someone get killed?
Yes, that's what's going to take.
Okay.
Even if that is enough. I don't know.
Yeah. And even like you mentioned, the vandalism, the destruction of the EV car charges in Massachusetts. And,
I drove by there yesterday or the day before, and they've all been replaced. I was impressed. Tesla replaced them all almost overnight, and people were charging their Teslas when I was there. It was pretty good. It showed me that the Tesla organization has a lot on the ball.
Yeah. So it brings me back now. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's been from Texas, she's a Democrat. She's been on a lot of talk shows and TV. She likes getting her face on TV, and that's fine with me. But she's been a big one going after Musk and leading this resistance against Tesla. Well, she has promoted a Take Down Tesla Day, okay, which is going to be this Saturday. She's urging all protesters to come together, go to Tesla dealerships or any public square and protest against Elon Musk and Tesla. And I'm saying, so
I assume she's a Democrat.
She is, Jasmine Crockett. And when she was questioned by one, I don't know if Fox or CNN, she was questioned by someone about, well, the violence that's been occurring at some of these protests. Aren't you concerned about that? She said, oh, no, these are, I'm telling everybody, these are nonviolent protests, okay? And she's saying, but just the name, Take Down Tesla. What does Tesla have to do with anything? The company, okay, great innovation, extraordinary. The owner of, okay, I can see you have problems with Elon Musk, but you're attacking a company that has thousands of employees.
100,000 employees.
Yeah, and throughout the world. And it's a great, it's an extraordinary story for America.
Not only that, the man is a genius. It was his rocket that brought down the 2 astronauts that were stuck in space for 9 months. It took him and his genius to bring them down, but to rescue them. And it was an amazing operation, but he gets no credit, not in the left-wing media.
Well, what would have happened if the Republicans had held a rally, take down George Soros? You think it would get a lot of play in the newspapers? The New York Times would do a story. This is how radical, violent, extremist they are. But she goes out, a congresswoman, saying, and just the word, take down Tesla. What does that mean, Congresswoman Crockett? You know, what are you trying to do?
I think she's trying to be another AOC.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I don't think the American people are going to stand much more for this. You know, she should be working in Congress to solidify legislation. If she wants to correct the laws, work with people on both sides of the aisle. Let's get some immigration policy going. Let's talk to some of these people on Musk's team and stuff.
The media is so desperate to get people to oppose Trump. That's why they give her all this coverage. She's a first-term congresswoman and probably her last term. She's from Texas, and I don't know how people in Texas can vote for her anymore.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's totally out of whack. And then you had last Tuesday night, Jimmy Kimmel, the failing late-night host, goes on and does his opening monologue about Tesla and sarcastically tells people, let's not have any violence against Tesla.
How do these late-night comedians...
They think it's funny. The audience laughs.
How did the late-night comedians get these jobs? They have no talent. They're not funny. And it's just almost embarrassing to watch them.
Well, openly condoning violence, but who are the morons in the audience that they're laughing at these lame jokes and stuff about violence against an American company that employs people? I mean, it's just, we're the Democrat Party, as Laurie Trahan says, yes, they got a messaging problem. It's internal. It's because the Democrats themselves are warped. They are. They're warped, and their followers are warped. Last point I want to make about this is I think they were paid agitators. I mean, I got nothing against protesters, okay, who do it nonviolently. You know what? People have causes, and God bless them. If they don't like Elon Musk, they have the right to hold, gather, assemble, and protest, okay? But they should be cognizant who is joining their group. This gets me, because I believe some of these people who are doing these violence at these Tesla dealerships are paid agitators, okay? And they're coming from lefty donors or organizations, people who should be exposed. And that's what the Democrat Party should be doing, and saying, we're not for this, but we have the right to protest, and this is how we're going to do it. But they should be more cognizant of who are in these groups, who is joining them, and giving them a bad rep.
It is basic to follow the money. Compare that to Columbia University. They have this big problem now, anti-Semitism, and all these Hamas supporters attacking the Jewish students. This is like the chickens coming home to roost. For years now, Columbia and other Ivy League colleges have been accepting millions and millions of dollars from the Arab states. And they're locked in to a lot of Arab Muslim views.
Yeah.
And they've grown in not only student body, but in the teachers and the professors with this point of view that Israel does not deserve to exist. And it's terrible. And now we see the results of all this soliciting of this money from the Middle East.
Well, Trump is cracking down on a lot of those college campuses that seem to ignore anti-Semitism protests, the violence that has happened, and a lot of them are caving in. Columbia, they've seen the light because why? Money, federal funds. They want the federal funding, and hopefully it will continue. These colleges, and especially the Ivy Leagues, they're going to clean up this mess. I mean, it's crazy. All students should be protected. I don't care where they come from. They should all be protected. You should all be treated the same. You know, isn't that what DEI is about?
DEI is DOA.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, do you ever watch Howard Kurtz on Sunday on Fox Media Buzz?
Occasionally.
Okay. So, he closed the show by saying basically, you know, Trump just can't win, and it was about the SpaceX landing that you know, rescued the astronauts who'd been up in the orbiting in the space was it space station, and you know, Boeing. They had problems with their capsule, so Elon Musk sent up SpaceX. But
Came
one
to
of
the rescue. He came to the
one of the
rescue.
cuts and brought them back after 9 months, and you know, it came out with this story, and it has been verified that you know, Elon Musk reached out to the Biden administration and said he was available to rescue these astronauts before the election, and the administration turned him down, wanted him to wait till after the election. Probably they didn't want any catastrophes, anything bad to happen, so they let the astronauts languish, whatever, up there.
Joe Biden was in tough shape. He probably didn't even know they were up there.
You're probably right. So the story was verified. He talked about it. He says, but you look at the coverage of the event, where, you know, he said that the New York Times, they ignored that part of the story. And Trump, as soon as he became president, he told Elon Musk, I want you to go up there, get that capsule, bring those astronauts home. And Kurtz's point was, you know, these publications just can't give Trump
Jim, you know
credit
how
for
bad,
anything.
You know how bad it was? The Associated Press refused to call the Gulf of America.
Right.
They called it the Gulf of Mexico. The Wall Street Journal said it splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so.
Well, it was interesting because I kept going back and forth between CNN, Fox, and Fox had their map of Gulf of America, and then CNN had
Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico, and MSNBC. No one even mentioned that SpaceX was owned by Elon Musk. I mean, MSNBC and CNN didn't even mention Elon Musk's name in owning SpaceX when they opened the capsule and everything else. I mean, it's just. It's just so obvious. You're a reporter, just report the facts, but you could tell that they just don't want to give credit to anything that anyone or anything associated with Donald Trump. It's really, wonder what history books are going to look like in 5 and 10 years. I mean, they said, you know, the victors write history, right? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. So. The quote of the week.
The quote of the week. My quote of the week, in relation to how our government, the governor, the mayor of Boston, the attorney general, they plan to not get involved with dealing with illegal immigrants. And it reminded me, in relation to what Tom Homan did, arresting all these illegals, is the Mike Tyson quote, that everyone has a plan until they get a punch in the face. And that's what he did. He punched him in the face.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking about Mike Tyson, he had a nice quote, too, about one of the greatest heavyweights who ever lived, George Foreman, died this past week. And I like George. And when he came back and won the heavyweight title for the second time at age 45, I remember my wife went out and bought me a George Foreman grill. She was still a flight attendant at the time, you know, and I didn't when she married an Italian, she thought she married someone who liked to cook. I says, no, I like to eat, you know. But she bought me a George Foreman grill, so say you can cook your hamburgers outside or something or whatever, you know. But I really like George Foreman. I've really enjoyed his commercials, the Pitch Man. He was great. He was
He was
a great
an
guy.
entertaining guy. Yeah.
Had 5 sons named George. I loved him, you know. So it was great. But anyway, my quote of the week. April 2nd is going to be Liberation Day for America. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. Who said it?
The president said it.
Yes. So it relates to April 2nd when all the 25% tariffs kick in on all foreign imports. And Trump is now, he has given some countries some exemptions as they've come to the table, which everybody was up in arms at first. Oh, it's going to hurt this market. It's going to hurt that market. Our relationships with these countries. Isn't it interesting that...
Jim, you and I should go out and buy Teslas. That's what we should.
Well, I mean, look at all the people who've come to the table, starting yesterday with Hyundai. The chairman flew in from South Korea. He says because of the tariffs, he's going to build a $5 billion steel plant for his domestic car making plants in America. They're going to build it in Louisiana. 1,400 jobs, and he also committed as part of a $20 billion investment in the U.S. He's also going to put a third car-making dealership somewhere in the U.S. So he said it right out. He said, he says, you know what? We can't deal with these 25% tariffs. America is one of our best markets, and we're going to make the cars here. We might as well have the steel here. So that's one. The Taiwan manufacturing company, one of the largest chip makers in the world, they've already committed to a $20 billion investment.
The bottom line is, if you build tariffs, they will come.
Well, isn't it true? Trump said, that's a great way. You build tariffs, they will come. And Trump said that. He said, hey, you got to be patient. We can't do this overnight, even though he promises things overnight. But it seems like, things are starting to fall into place with these tariffs and stuff. He says, hey, we're trying to get companies to come back to America and do their products here. And I think that was the game plan from the very beginning. And the roof, the sky didn't fall out, We had a couple of blips in the stock market, but you know what? Seems that everything is stabilized.
It's working. It is working.
Yeah. So, any closing thoughts?
That's it.
That's it? Nothing else? No other words of wisdom?
I'm out of stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let me see my page here. No, I think. What are you going to do on Tesla Takedown Day?
I'm going to buy a Tesla.
You're going to buy a Tesla. Good for you.
I'm going to buy a Tesla.
Well, until next week at this time when we
It
have
may even be a Tesla truck.
Those Cybertrucks.
Cybertrucks.
Yeah, those are pretty good. I saw
with a machine gun in the back.
I saw a lot of those in Florida, but they were good. Well, for myself and Peter Lucas, until we see you again next week.